Good morning. Good morning. I hope you'll forgive me. I'm a little nervous. I've never had an audience that can bark at me before. But let's crack on and get underway. Before I start, there's something I want to get out of the way. Let's start with that. And then we'll do one of those. And that one. So, look, I'm hoping to cute overload you before we start. That's always a risk when you are talking about PetFinder. And I want to be able to focus on the importance of purpose in the pets industry, which is, clearly very serious stuff. Now, on the surface, purpose is kind of funny. It's a funny thing to be talking about at BlogPaws. You probably quite rightly expect to hear about how to make blogs better and how to make them bigger. And I've seen heard lots of great workshops and presentations. But the question is, why make them better? And why make them bigger? And the answer is purpose. So, right now, this room probably has owners and blogs and businesses and a mixture of relationships with your purpose. Some of you are all about purpose, others are losing sight of their purpose, and maybe some others are finding their purpose again. But I hope to show you today that it doesn't matter if you're starting out, or you're established, or you're stable or growing gangbusters, or you're tiny or already huge. Understanding and focusing on your purpose will make the difference to your success. And the success can take many forms. Readers, users, fans, advocates, uniques, shoppers, you name it. Maybe even money. Whatever your success metric, I guarantee you're more certain to get there with purpose. Which brings me to another point, and one that Steve Dale touched on in his keynote yesterday. Now, it would be a very natural question to ask why, in fact, money, business, and purpose even have any importance in relation to our best friends. In my case, the three furry, two skinned, two scaly best friends I have at home. But after all, most people, animals, and pets are about as far away from Wall Street as you can get. They're the subject and cause of love and family, and an expression of our humanity and our compassion, and quite rightly so. They're living creatures and not products. But in fact, some of the most well-known animal-related organizations are obviously altruistic and humanitarian, volunteer-driven or charitable. So business thinking, regardless if it's purposeful or not, doesn't always seem very relevant when it comes to pets. Well, whether you think this way or not, all of us here are actively engaged in running a business in the pets market. If you run an animal shelter, or you blog about cats, if you produce homemade dog treats, or you're all contributing to the pet industry. And I don't care if you're a pet food manufacturer, a journalist, or a service provider. We are all contributing to enabling and supporting pet ownership. And pet ownership in the US is a very big business. It's massive. To give you a point of comparison, the entire media industry, TV, newspapers, cinema, everything, online, is only $76 billion. And the $14 billion we spend on pet healthcare is obvious, right? We've all had vet bills. And even the $21 billion we spend on pet food, though, it's a mind-blowing figure. And that's before we spend $13 billion on pet supplies and over-the-counter medicines every year. And what about the $2.2 billion we spend buying pets every year? And there are hundreds of thousands of fabulous homeless pets for free. And I should know, they're all listed on PetFinder. But what I'm getting at is here, whether we like it or not, capitalism pervades pet ownership. And pets are big business. Perhaps you want a piece of that business. I think that's great. So understanding the importance of purpose in building a successful pet business on your own will be key. But perhaps you want to avoid corporate America like the plague. I know I do sometimes. In that case, you're missing out, because capitalism has pretty much a bad rap, and that's largely due to Milton Friedman and companies that are pursuing the opportunity to increase profits for shareholders, and a general trend in the US towards short-termism. But capitalism has been the single greatest force for good in this country. It's given us medicine and technology, and it's brought economic opportunity to the world and lifted billions out of poverty. But whether you're a for-profit business or not, as a shortcut, I'm going to refer to any organization involved with pets as a business. Because whether 501c3 or LLC, I hope that we're all making some money to support ourselves and our organizations, and we're all surely contributing to this massive industry. So just quickly, before I get started, I get this question a lot, so we'll take a side road. If you're in the pets industry, how do you tell if your business or your partner's business are engaged in good capitalism, bad capitalism, or downright evil capitalism. I really couldn't find an evil picture of a Jack Russell, but that one's actually eating snow. But it kind of looked a little spooky, so I went with that one. And I have to give thanks to Dog Shaming for the middle one. I just love that site so much. It's fantastic. But it's pretty easy to spot the good, the bad, and the downright evil. The profiteering are pretty easy to see. I think we can all probably count ourselves relatively good at detecting the Goldman Sachs banker from a very long way away. But for every other business, there's a very simple test. Are they A, trying to look after people, products, and the environment to make money? Or are they B, making money to look after people, products, and the environment? So, a little bit of interaction. Hands up if you think the good kind of capitalism is not option A. Hands up if you think it's B. Hands up if you have no idea at all. So the answer is, well, in truth, A is kind of okay capitalists. They're not really that bad. These are the guys with the corporate social responsibility programs. They don't believe in being evil, but their key metric is still profit. In short, their purpose is to make money. But B is the good kind of capitalism. McKay and Sisoda, I'm going to come and talk about, call it conscious capitalism. Companies who are conscious that they're making money and that they have a purpose against which to use that money. In short, they make money to deliver their purpose. And there's a huge difference between the two. And for sure, if you're building a business or searching for meaning and for success, this is the type of business you should be. So I'm going to tell you why. There isn't a single review, analysis, or commentary about the 2000 .com crash that doesn't feature pets.com. It's the infamous pet supplies retailer that went from IPO to liquidation in under a year. It's the poster child for .com flops, and painfully for all of us, at the forefront of everyone's mind when they think about pets and the internet. But the frustrating thing is that while pets.com was busy soaking up all the oxygen in the room, another pets business was busily doing everything right on the internet and gaining traction on its way to becoming a massive success and a proving ground for the value of having a purpose. That business started 4 years earlier, 6 months after Yahoo, 2 years before Google. That business has been a leading web property in the pet sector worldwide for over 16 years. That's a lifetime in internet years. And that business is one of the 250 largest websites in the United States, and it's still growing at a double-digit rate. It's leapt from Web 1.0 through Web 2.0, and it's still growing on the social and mobile webs. It has a 20% share of all new pet owners entering that massive market we talked about, and it's a quietly spoken household name. And astonishingly, if you go into a room, we're going to try this in a second, if you go into a room today with more than 10 people in the United States, statistically at least one of them has been a customer of this business. That business is PetFinder. And all of this, thank you. And all of this is due to purpose. So as recently as last year, we looked like that, with a digital experience that looked like that. It really did look like it was built, in the last century, and it was indeed built in the last century. So clearly, website design is not key to innovation and success. But I'm a little proud of this, so I can't not show you what it looks like now. So in the last year, this is what it looks like. And again, all of this is due to purpose. And for that, and the unbelievably hard work of the team all the time on it. And in case you don't know at its heart, PetFinder is a vertical search product. So users can search across hundreds of thousands of adoptable pet listings aggregated from over 14,000 animal welfare shelters. And in any given month, we have 360 to 370,000 pets available for adoption. These include dogs and cats, perhaps obviously, birds and bunnies, reptiles, including chameleons, and even barnyard animals. Yes, you can adopt a cow and a llama on PetFinder. One of my favorite stories is a woman. I was on an airplane with a woman, and she saw I worked for PetFinder, and she leant across to me, and she whispered ever so quietly in my ear, she said, "When I'm feeling down, I go to PetFinder and I look for llamas." And then she looked away, blushing, shamefaced, and wouldn't talk to me the rest of the trip, like it was some big admission. It was the best. But our business attracts 8.5 million unique users every month. They spend 15 minutes with our website on every single visit. And more importantly, We enable 150,000 people to find new homeless pets to add to their families every single month. It's an awesome platform for responsible pet ownership. Now, I didn't build this business. I didn't create its purpose. But 2 years ago, I was lucky enough to be given the chance to read it. I've got under the surface, and it's clear that its success and its longevity come not simply from a great model, but even more from the fact it's a purposeful business. So PetFinder started with the purpose to end the euthanasia of pets. Now, we still have that purpose, but since PetFinder was started, the euthanasia rate of pets has dropped 75%. Since that point, we've evolved to elevating the status of family pet to family member. That's obvious to all of us. It's not quite so obvious to the rest of the country sometimes. But we've now refreshed that again as pet ownership landscape in the US has shifted. Now our bigger, more powerful purpose is to create responsible pet owners from adoption throughout a pet's life. So our purpose comes from our social mission, and our focus and commitment to it, has driven our evolution and our growth, and it's been our call to arms and a battering ram against the status quo, the most powerful weapon in our arsenal. And I can't emphasize how important purpose is to PetFinder's continued innovation. A lot more on this in a second. Before we go any further, I could spend hours talking to you about purposeful business. I literally could do it, and you would all be here till Sunday. But I'm going to give you a shortcut. Everything that you need to understand purposeful businesses by people who are far more qualified than me to discuss it is in this book, Conscious Capitalism. It's a really compelling read. It's authored by John Mackey, who's the CEO of Whole Foods, and it does a really excellent job of explaining the benefits of purpose. I'm only touching on some of the points here, and I really urge you to read it. I'm also no forensic accountant, but I'm pretty sure that Pets.com failed for many reasons. But broadly, Pets.com failed because it was in no way purposeful. Neither to start with, nor how it operated once it launched, and purposeless organizations are never powerful case studies. So if your business or blog or 501c3 doesn't start with a good model, it will survive about as long as the money. In PetFinder.com's case, 268 days, exactly. They were a pet retail business at a time when there were at least 20 other pet retail businesses who thought it was cool to be on the web. And there was no real advantage to that business, and they had no purpose to sustain and direct them. But even us, even with an innovative model, not like Pets.com, even one that can survive and flourish for a while if you operate it well, you're living on borrowed time. You're waiting for someone to come along and eat your lunch. It doesn't matter how good or unique or clever you or your business are. If you don't have a purpose, you will eventually come under attack. You will struggle to compete, and you will fail. Maybe not now, maybe not tomorrow, but soon, and for the rest of your life. Anyway, it's perhaps not surprising that Pets.com is now owned by PetSmart, the URL, and the hand puppet spokesman sells car insurance. He literally sells car insurance for bar none insurance. It's poetic. So look, the purpose is key to success, and especially if you don't want to be a Pets.com. So what does your business do? You make products, maybe cat toys, you provide a service like cat sitting, or knowledge sharing, or entertainment. Maybe you help people directly even, perhaps training their animals. Maybe you struggle to answer that, in which case you must be a blogger. And I say that with all due respect, because I've been blogging for a while now, and I find myself using all kinds of different ways to describe what I do, whether it be building a product, or providing a service, or helping people. But when you take away what you do, why are you here? It's the happy marriage of man and existentialism, and I can't tell you how hard it was to come up with a slide for that. But I'm really serious. If you strip away the things that you do as a business, and all you've got left is make money, someone's going to beat you. And nobody in the animal welfare industry is going to work with you. So PetFinder flourished and Pets.com failed. Purpose is key. Maybe you're not convinced. Purposeful businesses outperform profitable businesses by a factor of 10. That applies everywhere. That applies small scale, large scale, for-profits, not-for-profits, fundraising, getting consumers to pay. And one of the key reasons is that they innovate more. There's lots of evidence here. But in short, they recruit better people and better partners. Those people and partners perform better at all tasks. They are more focused, more engaged, more passionate, and they make decisions more easily. And they innovate more and better. So if you've got a purpose, then you've got a big advantage to make your business, blog or national retailer, perform better. Now you can ask Sergey Brin or Larry Page or Mark Zuckerberg and all those great digital glitterati, and they'll all tell you that innovation isn't a one-time deal. It's not fire and forget like pets.com. Facebook's mantra is move fast and break things. Unless you're breaking stuff, Mark Zuckerberg says you're not moving fast enough. It's very famous. Sergey Brin equally committed to innovation. But why? Well, it's because in the uncertainty of our environment and the uncertainty that's offered by innovation, it's the only certainty of success to keep innovating. So, famous management guru, you can't do a presentation without a famous management guru. Peter Drucker, he says, innovation is the instrument of entrepreneurship. We're all entrepreneurs in this room, at least I think we all would like to be. So innovation, it's the preserve of startups, right? It's the preserve of great digital colossi like Google and Facebook. But these companies are actually quite old now, surprisingly old when you work it out. But they're still innovating. And 16-year-old companies like PetFinder aren't startups, and they're still innovating. And if you need more proof, look at Netgear, or Under Armour, or eBay. They were all started in 1996 like PetFinder and all still innovating. And certainly like PetFinder and unlike Pets.com, each of these businesses started out with or quickly found great models in great sectors, but without exception, all of them are still pushing forwards with innovation, and that innovation is driven by a strong purpose. Innovation is the key to success. And despite all of their ages, as old as PetFinder is at 16, we all get our creative stimulus from our purpose, and so can you. So how can you become digitally successful? Startup or mature, not-for-profit or for-profit. How do you become digitally successful? What I've seen at PetFinder is there are 5 principles to building and sustaining success, and they all stem from our purpose. These 5, and aren't there always 5 of them? It's like the law. These 5 have driven PetFinder remorselessly to the top, and they keep it there. And when PetFinder forgot these 5, the business instantly started failing. So if you're a business, for or not-for-profit, large or small, starting out or mature, these same rules work because they're purposeful and they fuel purpose. So this is, sorry, you get the picture? I'm going to go back. All right. So I like this next point. Because success at PetFinder has been driven by surrendering to our purpose. So I used to be a competitive rower. I'll explain it. I used to be a competitive rower in the UK. Some of you might know it as crew, but basically as people in a boat with oars racing against each other. So one of the things that it's taught to rowers is that they have to surrender to the rhythm and the speed of the boat, to stop slowing themselves down by doing anything other than moving in sync with your purpose. It's an important concept in conscious capitalism and in successful, purposeful businesses too. Though admittedly, if I'm talking about rowing in a business context, perhaps I should make the point like this. You've all seen these on the walls, right? So giving in to the inevitability of what you're trying to achieve is perversely hugely empowering. It focuses your time and effort on what's really important. To be frank, this is probably the most important concept we've experienced in driving success at PetFinder. We have a purpose and we are inspired by it. We have a vision of achieving universal responsible pet ownership. And we have great processes and culture to make it happen. And then when we have all that, really all we need is to get out of our own way. And that's where surrendering comes in. Surrendering to your purpose makes you more innovative. Remaining focused fixedly on your purpose and your vision causes you to approach even the mundane with a view to its potential value to deliver your mission. And to spend the minimum of time dealing with things that don't. And that, more than anything else, is the thing that we find now is important. We don't waste time on stuff that doesn't make a difference. And arguably, even more important, the tension that comes from tackling something that doesn't seem purposeful forces you to be creative to find a way to make it purposeful. And sometimes in the day-to-day grind, that kind of pressure to find the innovation, to re-find your purpose, can make all the difference. So it might sound a little new age, it might sound a little like mumbo jumbo, or maybe it sounds great me standing up here and saying it, but the reality is we're always down more in the weeds, backing up our databases. seemingly always backing up our databases. But at PetFinder, you know, there's always a number to hit, there's always a post to write, a technology to repair, or complexity to accommodate. And it's really hard to lift your head up, right? After all, the broken things have to get fixed, numbers have to get hit, posts have to get written. I'll give you an example. In November last year, our statistics service broke down. Now, like a lot of websites, we live and die on our statistics. And I guess without the feeling that we have somewhere to go that comes from having a purpose, our traditional behavior would have been to fix it, get it up and running as quickly as possible, probably slightly degraded. It would have been painful. It would have been frustrating. I'm looking at Jane here. But the reality was our statistics service wasn't very good anyway. It didn't really help us in our purpose. In fact, the data it gave us probably contributed to us carrying on doing the same things we'd already done and not moving forwards. So when the PetFinder technology team stepped back and thought about the opportunity this presented, and they thought about achieving our goal of responsible pet ownership in the United States, and they surrendered to it, to the inevitability that we would get there, they started to envision what a new statistics service would look like. And from a team that's burdened with considerable responsibility, and perhaps the polite way of describing it is mired in operational reality, there was an incredible outpouring of creativity. They broke out of their usual thought processes and they started thinking differently. They stopped worrying about intakes and tickets and break fix, roadmaps and working hours. They started writing code on the telephone. They were collaborating and they were excited and they were intimately connected. And this is a group who are self-defined as borderline antisocial. So the net result, now we have the foundations of a new statistics service that delivers the statistics for our site that makes us the business we want to be and not the business we are. And I guarantee, look, had we planned this project to update it, it would have taken 3 times longer, cost twice as much. You've got to find ways to do these things because your purpose drives you, not because you're trying to fix them. So it's not often you use the word surrender with a positive connotation. But if you accept your purpose and all of its consequences, it does give you the power to act extraordinarily. Extraordinarily. Is that right? And to treat everything as an opportunity to truly innovate. So we do this a lot at PetFinder. It's a lot of hard work. I spend about 20% of my time working with the leadership team to reaffirm our belief in the vision, to check it, to make sure that we're very, very committed. And you have to be continually on your guard for fear and complacency, both of which undermine your ability to drive your purpose. And they're perversely signs that you haven't surrendered to your mission. And there's a lot more to it than meets the eye, but if you're even vaguely interested in this, then I recommend you check out a company called Gap International, who are working with big and small companies and doing great things with people, creating breakthrough leadership and helping them to do that. Okay, next. Next in our purpose, the importance of purpose is finding the win-win-win to drive innovation and to make you successful. So a $52 billion a year industry sounds huge, but as you know and I've learned probably the hard way, the pet space is a small world. After 16 years in business without focusing on win-win, PetFinder wouldn't still be in business, let alone flourishing. But focusing on everyone winning has meant even more than that to our business. It's part of our purpose, because pets lose if we don't enable everybody we work with to achieve the most success possible. So when I first joined PetFinder, I thought we were weak at negotiation, and I was all prepared to sharpen our edges and harden our positions. After all, I knew our partners often had enormous marketing budgets, and they weren't spending nearly enough of it with us. In short, if you'll excuse the euphemism, we had to grow a pair. It always makes me wonder about using that phrase, because I work for an organization that advocates for the spaying and neutering of pets. Well, at least I took the slide out. The reality is I was wrong. What these were purposeful partnerships, where the scorecard wasn't just money. And what I failed to appreciate is that the cumulative value of each deal was really being maximized by a group of people who were truly inspired to find the win-win-win across all of the stakeholders. Focusing on everyone winning enables you to get the most valuable possible from any relationship, because every partnership, every deal is a chance to create value, obviously for ourselves, and our partners, and our shareholders, and our consumers, and our other stakeholders, but through every single one of them, for pets. And the PetFinder team has the freedom to focus on the total opportunity of every deal. That's what you're seeing on the screen here. It's our scorecard. We measure and we track it. And we've developed some incredible deals that benefit us and our partners, animal welfare organizations, all our users, and adoptable pets. We do this with programs such as adoption options. This is where we've collaborated with the PetFinder Foundation to train the animal welfare industry in how to drive adoption of pets. Our partner benefits from goodwill and increased and improved partnership, and unique access to a very large group of users of pet supplies. The animal shelters and adoption organizations get their staff trained in how to be effective at marketing pets for adoption, including how to use PetFinder. And PetFinder gets an opportunity to win supportive advertising dollars, a well-trained membership proficient in using our platform, goodwill, and to actually be in contact with our members, the animal shelters we work with, who we deal with virtually most of the year. And more animals get permanent homes and families. So over the history of this program, we estimate PetFinder and our partner have trained 70% of all animal shelter staff and volunteers. And what's more, it's become a huge platform in its own right that helps us fulfill our purpose of responsible pet ownership. So we work on adoption options all the time. We share, we work with experts, and they share their know-how on how to help pets get adopted. So we've worked with animal behaviorists and technologists and shelter managers and more recently photographers. This last one's interesting because it's not immediately obvious. We work with photographers like Seth Castile, whose work you can see here, and we train the animal welfare community through adoption options and other programs to take better photos of their adoptable pets. So adoptable pets looking pitiful behind bars in concrete pens might raise donations for the ASPCA or the Humane Society, but it depresses adoption of pets themselves when you see them in these kind of environments on PetFinder. So better photos with close-ups of engaged-looking animals in decent, ideally outside environments, a bit like the one on the right here from Teresa. They're far more effective. They improve adoption rates by 70%. So with people like Seth, we train shelter staff to take better photos, to drive better rates of adoption. They get exposure, our shelter members get trained, the PetFinder gets better images for its website, drives higher engagement from our users, and more support from our members. And 70% more pets get adopted. It's a brilliant win-win-win. And we can do it because we make money to deliver our purpose of driving adoption as a key element of responsible pet ownership. So this ability to drive win-win-win by focusing on your purpose is not just a nice to have, it's critical to success. We all want to be great people to work with, but it's much, much, much more than that. We all want to spend as little time as possible on things that don't make a difference, but I spend about a quarter of my time on this kind of thing. Well, to be honest, watching and learning while my team do it brilliantly. But free from focusing on the dollar value to your business and directed to look at maximizing the total value of every partnership, the PetFinder team can build great innovative deals that become long-term partnerships, like with Seth, that are themselves platforms like adoption options for delivering against our purpose even more. So my last 2 points are about moving beyond immediate purpose and staying purposeful. And critical to this is bringing success back to the model. So admittedly, I struggled a little bit with this slide. But I'm a huge fan of Justin Timberlake, and purpose can be pretty sexy. And that's about as close as we're going to get. So the first 10 years of this century, the sexiest dimension of digital product development cycle was speed. Speed to market, nimbleness, agility, rapid dynamic iteration, disruption, speed of innovation. And more recently, leading thinkers at MIT and Wharton have advocated for a concept of rapid momentum to deliver sustained and continual success and growth. It's critical to being more than a flash in the pan like pets.com. After all, rapid success is a beautiful thing. And the temptation is often to sit back and enjoy it, right? Whenever I come across it, all I hear in the back of my head is my old school sports coach saying, "Langridge, don't just stand there and admire the kick, get after it, you haven't won the game yet." Because business is ceaseless. Competition is relentless. Innovation needs to be endless. And your ability to refocus on your purpose needs to be equally seamless. So PetFinder. By now, I hope you're thinking it's pretty cool. I think it's great. It's had a huge impact on animal welfare, but there are zero, and I mean zero, barriers to entry. We don't have any exclusive contracts with our suppliers, the animal shelters and members that list pets for adoption on our service. In fact, our suppliers, our members, are continually looking for opportunities to promote their adoptable pets elsewhere, as much as their busy lives allow. And so, very reasonably, they're always open to and actively using competitive services. I'm telling you, the animal welfare industry is cutthroat. If we didn't innovate continuously around our purpose, we wouldn't have lasted 16 months in this space, let alone 16 years. But bringing success back and continually using it to refocus your purpose is really a shorthand for evolving, innovating, and becoming a better organization. And it's two things. Never forget that every change you make, every post you publish, every website you build, changes the marketplace in which you operate. You have to expect the change that's caused by your changes. Maybe you change consumers' expectations. Maybe you incite a little more competition. Maybe you open up new opportunities or signal the end of your existing opportunities. Your purpose doesn't just exist in isolation from your success or failure. Just as PetFinder has had to evolve its purpose from ending euthanasia to elevating the status of pets to driving responsible pet ownership, everywhere, as we've become more successful, so your purpose will have to live and breathe and evolve as your successes and failures build. Secondly, you have to know your users. Like, there's so many tired marketers who trot this one out, but it's key. And I don't mean exciting segmentation analysis, whether you think segmentation analysis is exciting or not, pen portraits, social visualizations, all those things. I mean, know your users. So at PetFinder, we have two groups of users. We have animal welfare organizations and pet owners and adopters. The PetFinder team is drawn very heavily from both of these groups, and they spend a huge amount of time, professionally and personally, with them. They understand their problems, they understand their thinking, and they understand exactly how much either group cares when we break. So users care about browsing and finding, adopting, and advocating for pets. Shelters care about more donations, about finding volunteers, about building their websites and listing pets wherever and whenever they can. So we've remained laser focused on making our purpose thrive with our users. We've created a foundation that raises more than $6 million a year to fund initiatives that support our members. We've created a volunteer acquisition and management database, and we host websites for hundreds of our members and syndicate their adoptable pet listings to over 1,400 websites in North America. We know these things to be valuable to our users and our members, who are instrumental to our purpose. So we move heaven and earth to deliver. And they have in turn helped us become more successful. So my last example is a favorite. A website that's built on adoptable search listings gives away those listings for free to anyone who asks for them. Well, we do that because our purpose dictates that we do. It drives adoption. Our solution was to create, syndicatable search tools, and at the time, bear in mind that this was the time that AOL was a flourishing walled garden dial-up subscription service. At the time, it was really remarkable that we did this. We gave away all our unique content for free, but it's paid off. We derive 20% of our users from syndicated traffic, and there are more adoptions and more adoptions than ever before because we do this. So from my experience at PetFinder and elsewhere, if you have purpose, that's great. It's truly great. But that purpose can't be sacrosanct and unchanging. Every success at delivering on your purpose should be brought back to that purpose and re-examined for new opportunities. I probably spend about a quarter of my time celebrating these things and then asking, what do we do now? And ensuring we stay connected to all of our users, both suppliers and customers. So I love this building. This is the SATA Computer Science Lab at MIT, and it's a great example of my final point. Don't build your business around a purpose. Build it to be purposeful. So learning at MIT is not about residency until you get your degree. It's about creating inspiring and innovative leaders. So when it came time to build a new computer lab, they didn't just put up any old laboratory and housing complex. They built this. How can you be a student or academic coming to this building every day and not be inspired to be innovative and successful and impactful? And if you've ever read anything on purpose in the corporate world, it looks a lot like this. Now you know why I built my slides the other way, because I could have shown you 50 slides like this. And this one is from McKay and Sassoda, the guys who wrote Conscious Capitalism. And I think it's safe to say the CEO of Whole Foods and a professor of marketing at Bentley College are both smarter than me. And this certainly seems like a reasonable description of what's key to a purposeful business. And it's certainly borne out by my experience at PetFinder. It's hard, seemingly, for many businesses. It is an achievable state to get that consciousness of your purpose. However, it becomes a whole other thing when you have to sustain and grow your business on this. In my experience, you can fake it for a while, but to survive 16 years of competition and economic downturns, purpose has to be front and center and public, like at the Starter Lab at MIT. I think truly purposeful companies, hopefully like PetFinder, companies that innovate continuously, deliver great value to all their stakeholders, including pets, and not just shareholders, have a culture within which that purpose is alive and thriving, and it drives the business. It's a slide rule for decisions and a scorecard for operations. Now, I can't tell you what your purpose is, but deep down inside, you have to know it, and you have to find it. And it has to be there for you, and living and breathing and in front of everything you do every day. But if you've added up all the time I say I've spent on activities to drive and use purpose at PetFinder, you've worked out I spend 110% of my time on doing this and sustaining our purpose of responsible pet ownership. And that's only partially tongue-in-cheek. I spend a lot of time on this stuff, simply because it's the only thing that keeps us leading. It's the only thing that helps us avoid the painful and very public demise or an infamous and markedly less successful peer. PetFinder has always been a purposeful business. It's been key to its success and longevity. But I say almost, because for a number of years the business languished. It was reasonably well managed, it was monetized, but it became to be evaluated only in its ability to make money. We moved from conscious capitalism to okay capitalism. And after a while, without the continuity of purpose, without the drive that comes from that, some good people started leaving. And other good people started first accepting the status quo, and worse, defending the status quo. And the really good people, who stayed good people, got increasingly isolated. The purpose of the business became really narrowly focused, and protecting that became the only reason we existed, seemingly under attack from all sides. It was truly a low point for the business, or you might call it normal business in a purposeless corporation. So the process of recovery was in essence going back to these tenets and rebuilding against them, of getting the team comfortable to aspire to a bigger purpose again, trusting ourselves enough to surrender to the inevitabilities of that purpose, and to finding the win-win-win in every situation for all our stakeholders, to closing the distance to our suppliers, animal shelters, and consumers. It took us 18 months, and we had to learn a lot, and we had to use a lot of money to do this. But that's why we made money in the first place. And it took real belief from a really great team to bring their passion and commitment and PetFinder's purpose back out from where they'd been hiding. But somewhere in those 18 months, PetFinder became an organization that did not only have a purpose, it was purposeful. Now, to be honest, I haven't really worked out exactly how. I'm still doing that, but I'm primarily grateful. At the moment, I think it might be a combination of the first 4 that you see here and accepting the consequences that those 4 lead you to. Certainly, as the leader of a purposeful team, it can be tough to agree when your team comes to you with a plan to rebuild your technology stack soup to nuts, or tear up your marketing model that's been successful time after time. But both those things happened at PetFinder to me, and both have been huge innovations and catalysts for further innovation. And I almost said no. And perhaps therein lies the nub, that with the right focus, a lot of passion and energy and a little luck, you can lead an organization like PetFinder to be successful in its purpose. But to truly build a purposeful organization, you have to be prepared to let the purpose lead you. So, Pets.com, it's an example of a business gone totally wrong. A model that wasn't purposeful from a company that wasn't. And purpose surely isn't as easy as sticking tab A in slot B. But it's not a complex algorithm either. Purpose plus surrender, looking for the win-win-win, with an expectation of change and a consistent stakeholder focus, in our case, pets, creates a business that succeeds. So PetFinder has founded, lost, and refound itself as a purposeful business. And I hope that I've managed to share a little bit of that with you this morning. It's the end of my presentation. If you've got any questions, I'm happy to answer them. We have 5 to 10 minutes. Let me go back. Okay, back for that one. All right. I do. Yeah. There's two dimensions to that. The first is when your business has been around for 16 years, you better hope you've had a significant impact on your reason for being. And I would argue that you can't have been around for 16 years without doing that successfully. No. But I also think the other thing is there are lies, damn lies, and statistics. And if I was HSUS, I would be using those statistics every minute of every day because it helps my cause. But the reality is, we're far better at measuring these things than we ever have been. We have a much greater relationship with our shelter members than we ever before. In the last 4 years, we've been surveying them and we've been asking them. So that's where we get that. We go back and we look at the statistic and we say, okay, the euthanasia rate when we started was this, and now we can derive the euthanasia rate because we assume that all animal shelters, fosters, and rescues are part of PetFinder, which by and large they are. And then we derive from our survey, therefore, how successful we're being. You can certainly reach out to the team and we can help you do that. Have you met Sarah and the outreach team? There you go. Yeah. No. There's a huge geographic disparity in animal rescue. There really is, and you know, I think a lot of people have recognized that. One of the good things about being an organization that's become purposeful and has come back to its purpose is that we now talk about how can we solve those issues. We're not talking about, isn't it terrible? We're looking at PetFinder as a massive platform and we're saying, okay, how do we introduce a transportation system that enables areas with high numbers of adoptable pets to move them to low adoptable pets? Now, we haven't got a win to announce there yet, but we've only just started. I think you can be safe to say that because we're pretty focused in about 12 months' time, you might well see something change there. Betsy. Okay, local. She does. The whole team does, and it's you know it's one of the things we have to deal with on PetFinder all the time because we're dealing on the interface between shelters and people who want to adopt pets, and of course people who want to adopt pets don't want to see adoptable pets, you know, 150 miles away from where they are. They really want to be able to drive down the road and find those pets. So, you know, for our users' perspective, we have to limit the geographic area in which we serve search results from. But the reality is we know that if we can put the infrastructure in place to move pets from areas where there are a lot of homeless pets, to, like in the south of Louisiana, Missouri, and places like that, then we know that we certainly have demand and we can help solve that problem. So we have some thoughts, we have some ideas. If you want to weigh in, we'll happily take all. We will happily work with you. Excellent. You give me a card or your email address, and I guarantee we can get you more involved. Yeah. Awesome. It's not at scale, is it? It's not at scale. It's insulated, isolated examples. It's not across the whole animal welfare space. And it's certainly a complicated issue. If it was easy to solve, someone would have solved it by now. But it is. But that's one of the things I think that's been great about PetFinder. Really getting back to its roots and finding its purpose is that I think we'll find that we realize we're a national platform now, and that we have a responsibility to do some of these things to actually make a difference. And if we can't do it, then very few people can. So we'll have to talk to you a lot more about that. So the reality is I think as most businesses get bigger, they become more focused on the things that made them big and so on and so forth, and that can lead them away from their purpose. If you think it's difficult in the pet industry, it's a billion times harder outside of the pet industry is the first thing, so we've got it relatively good. But the thing in my experience is every pet organization, whether it's commercial or not commercial, has a passionate senior level animal lover in them. And it doesn't matter whether it's a pharmaceutical company or whether it's a pet retailer or a pet food manufacturer, they all have accumulated people who are passionate animal welfare advocates and animal lovers. And they're a great doorway into them. But you have to pitch and present what you're doing to generate value. Now you have to accept that for some companies value might be monetary, sometimes it might be marketing benefit and so on and so forth. There's no shortcut. Not every organization is a type B, purposeful capital, conscious capitalist business. And I would always seek those companies out as a preference. I think sometimes we get our hands a little dirty and we work with the okay capitalists. And in that case, you just have to translate what you're saying into terms that are meaningful to them. In terms that are meaningful to them are profit or reputation. There's no shortcut around that. But there are a lot of very purposeful businesses in our space. They might not all be massive, but there are a lot. So we work with some companies that are truly, genuinely purposeful. They're also good-sized businesses like Thundershirt and the foundations of Petco and PetSmart and people like that. All of whom have a lot of leverage, a lot of opportunity for us, and are very good for us to work with. We work with everybody in this space. I think we have to. I think there are several things. We use every interaction, every partnership as an opportunity, not just to create value for everybody, but most especially for pets, but also as an opportunity to educate people. And the reality is most people are quite good. And when they're educated, they'll want to help to the extent that they can. Sometimes they can't. That's the reality. But we'll work with everybody. And we'll take every opportunity we get to work with anybody in this space, whether they be a pet company or whether they be a large, we work with Subaru, people like that. and other car manufacturers. We'll take every opportunity to educate them as to the issues. It's all about net good. It's all about how much you can net impact. And maybe you don't win today, but maybe you lay the groundwork to win tomorrow. But finding, the great thing is 70% of this country are pet owners and enthusiasts to a certain degree or another. So tapping into that is becoming increasingly easy. And PetSmart's program is wagon rescue wagon as well, which as well. PetSmart Charities is called Rescue Wagon. Wagon. G-G-I-N apostrophe. Gotta love those marketers. Yeah, sorry, you've been very patient. Yeah. And yeah. Picture speaks 1,000 words. And to that end, to the point that I made about purpose never stopping, we just completely tore the guts out and rebuilt our photo service. This is the bit that delivers photos in PetFinder. So bigger, bolder photos, more front and center in the site. You'll see that come in the middle of June. We'll have that launched. And you'll see it's great. When you see the impact a great picture can have on a PetFinder page, you lose your heart a million times to all of the pets that are on there. But it also enables us to do everything, which is pump those photos out to a million different places. So we're looking at developing a continual feed of photos on Pinterest and on a number of other places. So there are different ways of experiencing PetFinder, but we know photos are the lead way. Yeah. It's great. Well, and to your point about your purpose updating, you might have to update your purpose again in the reasonably near future because people are going to shift from pictures to video. Wow, that's great. We'd love to get your story down, I think, and put it on the site if that's okay. Can we grab you later? Good. Well, that's really nice. You just made my weekend. Can I answer anyone else's questions, or well, the whole team's here. Grab us. There's a million things we can do to help and to work with you. Thank you very much. Let me just finish on one thing.